Welcome back to Copeland Family Farm. As you can see, it has been, maybe a month since we've given a garden tour here, and there is a lot more that's going on. So we want to show you around and show you what's been doing good, what hasn't been doing good, and just tell you a few things that we've done to help with pests and to help our garden grow. So first, right here is our cucumbers, and as you can see, they're growing really well. We have about 10 cucumbers in our fridge right now. I need to make some pickles. These are just your standard run-of-the-mill cucumbers. Over here, these are lemon cucumbers, which honestly I just planted for fun. We are having some issues with some yellowing on the leaves. I need to give them some fertilizer, just feed them a little better, as they seem to be a little more greedy. But this is a lemon cucumber, and when they're ready to pick, they will actually be yellow like a lemon. As you can see, this one's starting to turn yellow on the top. Now, if you move down, we've got some cantaloupe. They're just starting to really get going. They take a little longer to grow, and we're trying to condense everything into as small a space as possible, just to encourage them to grow up and over. And we're also doing just some experimentation, really, to see what grows good together, what doesn't. We've still got some carrots left from our fall crop. We've also got marigolds planted everywhere, in case you were wondering what these are. You'll see them all over the garden. Marigolds are really useful for the garden because they do help put nitrogen back into the soil, and they're also a good deterrent for pests. The only thing I've noticed that they don't help deter is the aphids. Well, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about some of the pest control we've been using in our garden. We try to keep everything organic. So what I have mixed up in here is some water that we've soaked some of our really hot peppers in, ghost peppers, habanero peppers. Just a touch of it though, because too much of it, and as you can see, this was a little too potent, burned our leaves. So you don't want too much of the hot pepper water. But what does help with the aphids is neem oil. So you can pick this up. I got this at Lowe's. I think it was $8-ish for the bottle. You mix up 1 ounce of neem oil, 3 drops of soap. I just use your generic blue soap. You can use Dawn if you prefer Dawn. And then a gallon of water. And this needs to be applied, weekly. If you get a lot of rain, then you'll probably need to apply it a couple of times a week. But just spray it directly on the aphids as you're seeing them, and they'll die pretty quickly. Honestly, it's very effective. All right, to continue our tour, over here we have tomatoes. But these are tomatoes that I did not plant. They're volunteer tomatoes that came up from the compost that we used to feed the cantaloupe. And we decided just to let them go because honestly, they look really healthy. And I think they're doing better than the tomatoes I planted on purpose. We have zucchinis going over here, and they are a little finicky. I've noticed that they're prone to get the powdery mildew on the leaves, which neem oil helps with that, as it's a fungus, and neem oil is an antifungal. The other thing that we've noticed is that be careful of the kind of mulch that you get. We got some fresh cedar shavings, and they weren't aged very well. And it has made this bed really hard to put anything in there as the cedar is broken down. These plants have just kind of done poorly in here. They're slowly coming back though. Over here, we've got beans, as you can see, going up these poles. Now what's special about these beans is that they're the Asian long beans, and here's a couple right here. These will get a yard long as they grow, and it looks like the biggest green bean you've ever seen. But we decided to put these on the posts so they can grow up and over and help provide shade for the rest of the plants as it gets hotter here in Florida, because obviously Florida summers are a little brutal and some plants just can't handle that amount of sunshine. This is our okra bed. These okra are really starting to take off. Here's one right here. This is about the size that you want to pick them. If they get any bigger than this, they get a little too woody, and then they're not nice and tender to eat. And honestly, okra is just as good raw as it is cooked to me. I love okra. We have marigolds again, just scattered throughout to help with pests. I've got a fresh bed of carrots going here. Next to them is turnips and just a few beets. I've noticed that beets are a little difficult to grow here. I grew them really well in Utah where we moved from, but for some reason it's a little more of a challenge here. We've got an onion bed. So I've got shallots, I've got red onions, and then I've got garlic growing in this bed. I've also got a volunteer blackberry here, which I'll have to pick. And then this is called galangal. It's in the ginger family. It's a woodier root. You don't actually cook it down and eat it. You just slice it and put it in the food that you'd like to season with it. It tastes like garlic and ginger together. It's really delicious. Now if we move back over here around the corner, as you can see, our beans are really going crazy. It's only been 2 days since we've tied these up and they're already growing out of control again, and we're gonna have to tie them up again. It's pretty much a daily check because they are growing really fast right now. We've got a sweet potato planted here, and we've been pulling all of these shoots off. And if you pull off a shoot from a sweet potato that you've planted, you can put it in water for a few days, and then you can plant it because it'll root, and then you can have more sweet potatoes. These are our eggplants. They're just starting to get going. They're a bit slower than I would like, but like I said, we're experimenting and figuring out what grows well here and what doesn't. Over here, sage has been doing most excellent here. And this is all oregano. It is just taken off. Have a few weeds growing in there, but this was one tiny little oregano plant. These are what's left of our radishes that I planted over the winter. They've been really delicious to snack on. They grow really fast. They're the quickest and easiest crop that you can probably grow anywhere. This is cilantro. This is what happens when I don't pick it for a week. It's all bolted, and I'm gonna have to pull it out and replant it with fresh seeds. But the pollinators are loving it right now, so I'm leaving it alone. We have Swiss chard, another galangal plant. I've got some kohlrabi, which is a delicious vegetable. If you've never tried kohlrabi, it's somewhere between a radish and a turnip. Has a little bit of spice, but a smoother, creamier texture. And then I've got parsnips, which are almost ready to pull up. They're getting really big now. This is a specific kind of kale. I believe it's Afghani kale. It's ready to pick. It's bolting. I've got more carrots over here. So we're gonna have plenty of carrots here in a little bit. Over here is our potato bed. One of our potato beds. This was actually the overflow bed for the other one because we had more seed potatoes than we had space for. Again, these beans, we've got to tie them up. We've got yellow onions in this bed that are doing really well. And over here, something that's become our son's favorite thing out of the garden is the Japanese shishito peppers, which are very mild. If you let them get a little red on the vine before you pick them, they have a sweetness and just a hint of spice, and they're delicious. Over here we've got just the last bit of our greens that we did. We've got some cabbages, and these are Brussels sprouts. If you've never seen Brussels sprouts growing before, the Brussels sprouts actually form on the stalk at the base of the leaf. And the leaves are just as edible as the rest of the plant. So don't let these leaves go to waste. You can pick them as the plant grows. We've done this several times. It cooks up just like a collard green. We have longevity spinach here, which started out as a really small little plant, and it should spread and take over most of this bed as a nice big bush. It is absolutely delicious. It really does taste like very rich flavored spinach. These are tomatillos, and they're just starting to fruit. So I'm excited to make my own tomatillo sauce. We have garlic that I've interspersed throughout the garden just because it really does help with pests. We have one special pepper plant that a friend gave us that is a Carolina Reaper. So we'll see how that goes. These are the tomatoes that we planted on purpose. And as you can see, the volunteer tomatoes that I showed you earlier are probably twice as bushy and have twice as much fruit as the tomatoes we planted intentionally. So it'll be interesting to see which yields more. I have interspersed just a few seeds. This is called borage, and it's a really good plant to plant around your beds to help with pests and to help the soil. And now I'll take you out to the field part of our garden. Here's our field that we've started experimenting with some more. We've got mammoth sunflowers we planted here in hopes that we'll get some huge sunflowers with a lot of seeds that we can either cook ourselves and have some great fresh sunflower seeds, or feed them to the chickens, because what chicken doesn't love some seeds? Over here, and pardon our weeds, we just had some great rainfall, so the weeds are going crazy. But these are actually peanut plants. This right here is what a peanut plant looks like. And in Florida, that is one of the crops that grows great in hot, sandy soil. So we're giving that a go this year. Over here, we've planted a good amount of corn. Honestly, who doesn't love a nice fresh ear of corn with some melted butter on it? One of my favorites. We've got Seminole pumpkins that we planted in and around the corn. We didn't do the Three Sisters method. It's only two of the Three Sisters method of planting, which, if you haven't heard that before, it's the way the Indians used to plant their crops. You have corn, beans, and squash. These are our field peas, specifically cream 40 field peas. And that's cream spelled C-R-E-M-E. Fancy. Honestly, they are my father-in-law's favorite thing to eat ever, and he begged us to plant some. We did about half, no, not even half, a third of this amount over the fall season last year, and it was gallons of field peas. We ended up buying a little sheller because trying to shell all those peas by hand was just way too much. Now that we've got a sheller, we decided to plant a whole bunch more field peas because we want my father-in-law to have as many field peas as he can possibly eat. Well, as you can see, we have a small hole dug in our strawberry bed today, either a squirrel or an armadillo. And there was a big fat strawberry that I was going to pick for you guys on video, and it looks like something beat me to it. In with the strawberries, I have asparagus. Asparagus and strawberry plants pair really well together. And then if you want to enhance the flavor of your strawberries, also plant garlic with your strawberries. These are our blueberry bushes. We've got just a couple going right now, but we already have a nice little handful of blueberries, and we planted these last September. We've also got ground cherries, which they are really unusual looking fruit. They actually have this papery husk on the outside that'll turn dry and brittle, and that's when you know they're ready to pick, and inside is a beautiful yellow berry. I think they're also called gooseberries. Not 100% sure on that. Over here we decided to do some watermelon plants because they do like a lot of room to spread. These two are new. They've only been in the ground for a week or so. These ones that have been in the ground longer, well, they're doing really well. We've got a couple little baby watermelons, and they're helping to cut down on the weed growth over here by being a sort of a green mulch. Now this area we've got cassava, and that's something unique that we can grow here in Florida. Cassava, also called yucca, grows into a fairly tall tree, but it's the roots that you want to eat. The roots are something that you can find in most stores. And it's brown, looks like a big, long sweet potato. But it's brown. They're usually waxed in the store to help preserve them because fresh, they really don't last that long. You need to either dry them or cut them up and freeze them. But you have to take care to peel them and boil them because they do have a lot of alkaline content. Similar to like a cyanide that you need to cook out of them to make it safe to eat. But they're a great vegetable. They're really high in minerals and vitamins. And you can feed them raw to pigs. So if you have pigs, this is a great way to grow food for them. It takes about 9 months though. But each one of these plants that we have, we might get about 15 to 20 pounds of cassava root off of them. So the plan is to hopefully feed our own animals. I'm also mixing some of our sweet potatoes in here just because they are a vine and we have the space over here to just put them. Really, you can put sweet potatoes anywhere and they will grow over the really hot months in the summer without any issues. You can also eat the leaves on the sweet potato vines. In case you didn't know that, you can use them as a wrap if you have to go gluten-free, or if you need to be a keto-friendly diet, you can use the leaves all sorts of ways. Something I'm tickled about that's doing well that I really didn't think would do well, and fingers crossed, hopefully it survives the summer, is rhubarb. I picked the shadiest corner I could find. They get almost zero sunlight over here. And they came up without any water over this dry season that we've had. I love rhubarb personally. The rest of my family doesn't really care for it. But it's one of those things that it's a really sweet childhood memory having rhubarb crisp. My grandmother used to make that all the time. These are Mexican sunflower, and we planted a whole row of them here. As they keep growing and growing, they'll get a good 8-9 feet tall with several stalks. The whole plant is completely edible, even for people. You could eat this whole plant, but we're growing them primarily again to feed our livestock because it's something we can grow ourselves. Just break it off, feed it to your goats, feed it to your cows, feed it to your pigs, chickens. The cows though, they're a little picky. They kind of like their sweet feed with the molasses flavor. I wanted to experiment yet again because I was told that quinoa would probably not do well here. And so because somebody told me that, of course I had to try to grow it. But anyways, this is quinoa. It's actually in the same family as the plant that, well, this weed that's growing right over here that most people call lamb's quarters. It's in the same family. It's an amaranth. And the quinoa actually seems to be doing really well. And this row I'm going to let go so I can harvest it for more seed since it is doing well, and that way next year I can plant several rows and actually have enough quinoa to either have to cook or grind it into flour. These are all of the potatoes that we originally meant to plant. The ones down in the ground, I wanted to see if they would do better in a raised bed or in the ground. And this experiment has definitely showed me that they like the raised bed a lot better. The ones in the ground are having a few issues, whether it's water or pests, I'm not quite sure yet. But these ones in the raised bed are doing really great. We've got a mixture. These ones here with the darker leaves are the purple potatoes. And we've got red potatoes as well as golden potatoes in here. And some sweet potatoes, because again, you can pick those slips off of those and plant them pretty much anywhere. So as this bed gets emptied, as we start harvesting potatoes here in another month or so, we're just going to keep filling this right on up with sweet potatoes. Well, thank you for coming on this tour of our little garden. If you have any questions at all, feel free to message us, comment on this video. We'd love to help as we're learning about gardening. We'd love to help you with all the different things that we're trying to grow here. We're hoping to learn and be able to share that information with others. Hope you have a great day.